All right, welcome to the Bible is History, and I've got my friend Jake Gorsica here again, and this time we're going to look at some of his coins that come from the time of Alexander the Great and his successors. If you remember from previous videos, we talked about the fact that coins are a great way to handle history and to understand maybe some of its details. So the coins that we have that are available to talk about the Greek Empire. We've got something from Alexander the Great, King Lysimachus and Cassander, and a few other kings along the way too. And so, Jake, take us one by one. Here's your coin from Alexander the Great. Tell me about it, and then just walk us through the Greek Empire using your coins.
All right. This, of course, would be a great place to start. I'm talking about the Greek Empire with Alexander the Great. He was originally the king of Macedonia. He was the son of Philip II, another Macedonian king. Philip had unified Greece, but then when Alexander took over after Philip's death, Alexander conquered most of the known world, going from the Greek mainland all the way to the border of India. And because his conquests were so far and wide, he brought Greek culture to most of the East, including Israel. That turns out to be really important later because he gave the world an entire trade language, what they call a lingua franca. Anywhere after Alexander's time that you went, you could find someone who spoke Greek. That gave a common language for the gospel to spread. Alexander was a brilliant strategist, and he often won battles sustaining only 2% casualties, where his enemies outnumbered him by 5-1, which is pretty impressive. But he died young, and after he died, his empire was divided between a lot of his generals. Now, a lot of people think that Alexander's rise and fall was predicted in the book of Daniel a long time before it happened.
All right, thanks. Tell us about this Alexander the Great's coin that you see.
Well, if you look to the left of this slide, you can see a portrait. It's a little bit pitted from all the time it spent in the ground. But that is supposedly a portrait of Alexander, although it was modeled after the hero Hercules. They were using Hercules to represent Alexander. On the next picture to the right, you can barely see anything. It's very corroded. But I do know from other images of this specific coin that it contains a bow case and a quiver full of arrows, and also the name Alexander in Greek. You can only see the N and the D of Alexander.
All right, thanks. All right, what's next for us?
Right here we have King Lysimachus. He took over the region of Thrace. It was called the Thracian Kingdom after Alexander's death. He was one of Alexander the Great's most trusted generals and even his personal bodyguard. Now, he married Queen Arsinoe II, who was the daughter of Ptolemy I of Egypt, which kind of helped make a little alliance between those countries, which was very short-lived. This king had a lot of his children put to death to try to cement his own rule so that none of his kids would try to usurp him, but that made him pretty unpopular with a lot of people for obvious reasons, and he lost a lot of allies as a result. He was killed in battle during one of his many wars, and after he died, the Thracian kingdom completely fell apart. We got other kingdoms in Asia Minor like Pergamon or Cappadocia.
All right. What do we see on this coin?
There's the image of a lion. Unfortunately, the head has been worn off, but you can still see the body of the lion. Beneath him is a spearhead, and you can see a phrase in Greek, part of it's still intact. The phrase is Basileos Lysimachoi, which means of Lysimachus the king.
All right, thanks. On to Cassander then.
Cassander was another one of Alexander's successors. He actually took Macedonia, which was the heart of the empire, after Alexander's death. Originally, his father reigned in Macedonia, but he picked another heir besides Cassander, which made Cassander pretty angry, so he took the throne for himself. He went as far as to have Alexander's widow and Alexander's son confined in the city of Amphipolis to try to secure his position so that neither of them would try to take it from him. He still didn't trust them, so he later had them killed. Weird part is he married Alexander's sister Thessaloniki, and then he renamed the city of Therma Thessalonica in her honor. His dynasty was also short-lived, which is kind of a theme from this time period.
All right, thanks. Tell me what's on these coins.
On the obverse, which is on the left side, we have a portrait really similar to Alexander's. All of these kings were modeling their own portraits after Hercules. Part of that was through a superstition, thinking that if you put your own picture on the coin, you would anger the gods. But part of it is just to identify yourself with Hercules, to try to make the people trust in you more. On the back, we can see a horse and a rider, which is actually a really common image for Macedonian coins. Philip II, who was Alexander's father, used the same image on the back of his coins. When I first bought this one in my hoard of uncleaned coins, I had originally identified it as Philip II, and it wasn't until I compared it to a few other images and I noticed that the portrait on the front was a little bit different. That's when I was able to identify it as Cassander.
All right. So you already mentioned this lady.
Yeah. She's actually got a pretty interesting story. She was the daughter of King Ptolemy I of Egypt, but she married King Lysimachus when she was 15. After he died, she returned to Egypt and then married one of the Ptolemies. She actually had a statue, her brother erected in her honor in front of the Pharaoh's lighthouse in Alexandria, which was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. During her lifetime, she was actually the queen of Egypt, Thrace, and Asia. This specific coin was minted while she was still king of Thrace and Asia. They were the same country at the time, when she was Lysimachus's wife. It was minted in the city of Ephesus. And if you look to the right of this slide, you can see an image of a stag. That was the Ephesian symbol in Greek times. That's how we identify this coin as Ephesian. Her portrait, of course, is on the front.
Are there a lot of ancient coins with images of women on them?
Not a whole ton, although there are a few, especially in the Roman period. The Roman emperors would depict their wives and even sometimes their daughters on their coins.
All right, thanks. All right, tell us about Antigonus.
There were quite a few kings by the name of Antigonus. His epithet was Gonatas. I do not remember what that means now as I think about it, but he ruled Macedonia. He wasn't from Cassander's line. He actually helped establish some stability, excuse me, misspoke there. He helped establish stability after the chaos that followed Alexander's death. During his reign, a group of Celts, known at that time as the Gauls, pushed down through the Danube region and tried to penetrate Greece. They made it as far as Delphi, but Gonatas repelled them. These same ethnic group, these same Celts, later pushed into Asia Minor, going through Greek territory, and established the kingdom of Galatia, which is mentioned in the Bible. This specific coin commemorates Antigonus's victory over the Gauls, which is a pretty interesting find. One of my favorites of all the coins I've ever found.
All right, thank you. All right. Antiochus II.
Yep. Our last coin, this was a Seleucid king. The reason I chose to put him on here was to represent Seleucia, or Syria, which was another one of the kingdoms after Alexander. Antiochus II had a very uneventful reign. He made peace with Egypt and married King Ptolemy II's daughter. He had ruled with Antiochus I for a little while, but then after Antiochus I died, he took over sole rule of Syria. But like I said, his reign was fairly uneventful, so history doesn't really have much to mention about him.
All right. Anything special about the coins?
Not particularly. His coin shows a lot of the same devices seen on Greek coins. On the back, you can see a tripod, a bowl with 3 legs. It was often used to burn incense. You can see a little bit of his inscription.
On the left?
Yes, on the left.
Okay.
On the front, you can just see his portrait. By this point, they were a little less worried about offending the gods and were starting to depict themselves.
All right. Thanks. So those are just some of the, I hope you're kind of getting the feel like maybe I'd like to collect some coins. The ancient world, we can learn a lot from just finding the coins and identifying them and learning about the kings that they represent. So Jake, thanks. We look forward to a few more tours of coins from different places and different times, and learning history in this pretty unique way. Thanks.
You're welcome.